Hello, everybody. Welcome to Genesis Office Hours, episode number 28. This is your host, Carrie Dills, and today my guest is you. So I'm going to share the URL for the Hangout here on Twitter in just a sec, and if you want to join me, I would love for you to join me. Emily White, if you're listening to this, you're going to have to put down that frozen burrito if you want to get on the air, because I have a strict no burrito on the air policy with Genesis Office Hours. So yeah, welcome. Hello. It feels kind of weird not to have somebody on here to introduce at this moment, but we've had a lot going on here at the show. Last week we had Chris Lemma and had some absolutely fantastic discussions around pricing our products and services, and thank you to everybody who took a moment to fill out the survey over at carriedills.com, and then also watch the Chris Lemma video. I hope that was a huge value to you. It was to me. So maybe we can continue the conversation on that today, and then of course whatever's on your mind. So if you've got questions, you can ping me on Twitter using the hashtag GOHchat, or I'm going to go ahead and tweet out the link here. And I can't type and do this at the same time. All right, there you go. Cool. So I do want to mention the sponsor for the show is WP Site Care, and if you've been around the WordPress world for a little while, then you may have noticed that WP Site Care acquired Audit WP a couple of months ago, and Audit WP is SEO and WordPress audit site that was run by Rob New. So now those guys are part of WP Site Care, and I'm curious to see what's coming down the pipeline there, or what the future of Audit WP is. I know there is a future. I'm just curious to see how they're going to roll that out. Yeah, so let's. Hey, so here's a story. It's really not much of a story. If you'll notice, my background is a little bit different from usual. I'm broadcasting from my sister's house in Denver, Colorado today, and it's unseasonably warm. I think it's 75 or something, but that's better than the 95 it was in Texas yesterday. So, woohoo! Let's see if we got the link out there. Anyways, so I got up at 4 or some odd this morning Central Time, threw some clothes in a bag, and made it to the airport and got on the plane by the skin of my teeth. And so if I'm a little out of sorts, that's why. I desperately need a nap and possibly a frozen burrito. So I'm curious to know, last week on our pricing talk, and the survey results, that I'll share those, and not, of course, everything that was sent in was confidential, but in terms of the general feedback that people gave when it comes to pricing challenges, that confidence seemed to be sort of the number one reoccurring thing. So the confidence to have a value conversation with a potential customer, excuse me, to communicate the value that you bring to the table, how you think you can be of service to a customer, and then, unashamedly say, and my price, by the way, is X, and not blink when you say that price. So interesting that that's something that most of you guys seem to resonate with. So I think that would be a great place to kind of camp out and do some discussions around. The fact that I tweeted that link and nobody's joined me on here is making me just a little bit paranoid. But I'm trusting that Google says you're out there and you're tuning in. But would love if you want to come on and ask a question. This is what I get for not having guests on the show. Thank you, Lindsay. The artwork, I thought this was really cute. So since there's no Genesis questions yet or business questions, I'm just going to give you a little tour of my sister's house. This is her gallery of my little hand-painted artwork. I thought that was a really cute thing to do with refrigerator style art. Yeah. Okay. So, guys, I feel like I'm talking to myself, and it's really weird. I will mention, for those of you, I had Shrita Katakam on a few episodes back, and I had Brian Gardner on, and on the episode with Brian Gardner, I mentioned that there is a need in the Genesis community for someone who would be willing to do tweaks and could price them effectively and whatnot. Anyways, Sridhar managed to bust out an actual site called GenesisCustomizations.com, where you can go in and sort of order, little a la carte tweaks. So check that out if you want to. Hey, Marion, how are you doing?
Good, and you? How are you?
Oh,
Can you hear me?
just barely.
I wonder what microphone I have. I've been so tickled when I go to Linda and I see your 2 courses. What was that like?
Well, first, thanks for looking. That process was it was both fun and really challenging.
Yeah.
The process of writing the courses, I've never written a book, but if I were to write a book, I would imagine the process was somewhat similar in terms of kind of thinking through chapters and scripting things out. I did actually script everything out. I know not everybody, not all of their authors do that, but I didn't trust myself to talk on the fly.
Yeah, I agree.
Let this episode be point in case if I can't be trusted to talk on the fly. But anyways, it was fun. It was a lot of hard work, but enjoyed the process and hoping to do that again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they look great. I haven't clicked on any of them yet, but I will do that at some point.
Cool.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm working on a site that is not in Genesis right now, and I miss it to pieces. And at some point, when I get some time, I'm going to port it to Genesis because it's just ridiculous.
Was it a client requirement to?
I took it over from I think a new college graduate who used WordPress and the theme that will go remain nameless, except that it's a synonym for dreams, or the French word for it. And in fact, this is a talk I submitted for Las Vegas, and he just used it as a coding platform and the PHP as a structure for his HTML. So you have things like homepage copy in the home template file, whatever your opinion of that is. So
not Genesis.
Huh? No, that's not Genesis. And he took out the drop-down code, and I want to put that back in, and a few other things. And I have managed to do something to the CSS somewhere so that now the hamburger code doesn't work. So I'm just going to take it out.
Good plan. Good plan.
Also, when I went to Google hamburger code, I came up with 3 articles about how that's now terrible UX.
But yeah, so for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with the term hamburger menu, that's kind of your standard mobile menu interface that people have gotten used to, but you click on it and it expands. But yeah, who decided that the hamburger was the way to go? I don't know. Welcome, Joe. Welcome, Jackie. How are you, ladies? There you go.
I'm good. How are you?
All right.
You happy to be out of Texas in the heat?
It's nice to see a little change of scenery. I got off the airplane and could see mountains, which I don't ever get to see those, so it's fantastic. Congratulations on your site launch, Jackie.
Didn't even make it public yet.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I got it on my little logo there, and I've launched it. But actually, what you were talking about just a little while ago about having confidence to go out and find customers and to get started, it's like it's one thing to be building your own site because you can do whatever you want and make changes on the fly. But finding customers to build, like say I want to build a real estate site for somebody, it's how do you go about through that process of marketing yourself, finding some people to build a site for, and moving forward with that. So I built a site, a consulting site, as a place to start my work, but it's a challenge.
Yeah, and it's a step-by-step process. Sorry, I muted you, Mary. I was getting a little bit of feedback, but you dip your toes into the water. You go, you do a project. You're gonna make some mistakes and be okay with that. And then next time you'll know to not do those mistakes, and you'll get to make more mistakes. And then and on you go. So I think it's just a learning process and figuring out how to. You have a general roadmap of, okay, here's kind of my project flow. Here's how I'm going to start a conversation with a client. Here's what I'm offering to do. Start putting some parameters around it, timeline and meetings and milestones and goals, and just kind of march forward.
I really liked what Chris said in the bonus video about specializing, and taking your corner and some things like that. And I think for me, just starting off on wanting to do this venture, that might be a good approach because there's a gazillion people out there offering services, and you've got to find something that you're competent in and that you're comfortable with, so it'll be much easier to work with somebody on.
Oh, absolutely. So in your case, having a real estate background and then also this, would you call it gardening or
yeah, big time. Yeah, because that's how I got started in WordPress. Is I built a garden blog. That was my very first reason. I started in Blogger, and maybe back in '07 or something, and migrated, onto something else. At the time, I had the e-commerce business, and I had built that site on the Yahoo store platform, but hadn't done anything with WordPress up till then. So yeah, I started a garden blog and then migrated to the real estate side.
So those are perfect ends for you because you already know those industries. You already kind of know some of the pain points of people in those industries. And here's the thing to remember: if you're gonna stand in the line of WordPress people, yeah, you may feel like you don't have that much experience or that many things under your belt. But if you stand in a line of other realtors or other gardeners, you have the knowledge dash.
Everybody in my office says, well, how did you do that? I want one of those.
Exactly.
I haven't even launched my real estate site yet, but it's coming along, and I've showed it to a few people in the office, and they were like, well, where do we get that from?
And you say, from me, and the cost is X.
X times 2.
X times 2 plus 10%.
Yeah.
Joe, what's happening with you? Oh, you're muted. I'm going to attempt to unmute you.
My father's best friend came from what we call the schmata business, the discount department store. And his father's pricing formula was called 20%, which was essentially you added in your cost of goods sold, your overhead, everything else, and then you double it. And to him, that was 20%.
Well, yeah, that works.
It was from the old country.
1%. Well, Joe, I can't seem to unmute you. Maybe if you bounce out and bounce back in, something magical will happen. We'll let's give the world a...
Find my, figure out how to get to my other camera so you can look at something at the side of my head in my kitchen.
Yeah, if you got dirty dishes, we can see them.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, those are hidden because there's a big counter in the way.
Well, I see some bowls. They could be clean bowls, though.
Yeah, that's like the onions and stuff.
Well,
cabinet.
Mary, I know you're a veteran word camper. What's the next one on your books?
Ventura, hopefully, if I can get one. They're selling, what, 50 tickets that they haven't released yet? And they've already picked this. Constantine has started emailing people about the speakers, and so far it's Mike Schroeder and Mika Epstein. Epsteinu, if you know her on Twitter. It's just the three of us now.
Yeah, Joe was having some microphone problems, so she's going to hop back on.
But other than that, I guess it'll be Las Vegas, and I think I at least, maybe Dick also, will go even if we're not speaking. I submitted 3 talks. This one about, basically know where your code goes, but also leverage the actual WordPress platform, which did not happen in this case. And then I think I'm building a Genesis child theme based on Foundation.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And the third one was the one they wanted me to do at LA, except I didn't see the email in time. Thank you, Google Gmail spam filter.
We've got WordCamp Dallas coming up or Dallas Fort Worth coming up in a few weeks, and James Downer, he's one of the guys from Zerb, and he's working on Foundation. So excited to. I've heard a lot of Underscore's presentations, but not really haven't had much exposure to Foundation. So. I know here in the Genesis Club we just talk about using the Genesis framework, but both Foundation and Underscores would be alternative starting points or parent themes, framework themes, so to speak. So it's always interesting to see what else is out there.
Yeah, well, Foundation, since it's just really sort of a CSS framework, the hard part for me was finding where to put the markup into the loop, which is easy enough to do. It's more of a challenge, and probably better to leave it alone in terms of, WooCommerce sort of has its own grid markup for the store and the product and things. So I haven't really integrated it too strongly with that part. Oh, I'm getting my sites confused. I've got WooCommerce on this tennis machine site that isn't Genesis, and that's where the Foundation gridding isn't kind of meshing in with the WooCommerce. But in the child theme I'm working on, it's really not a problem. And boy, has it made me a believer in the Genesis hooks and filters. Not that I wasn't before.
Joe, you joined us. Did you get your microphone working?
Yay!
Hey!
We can hear you just fine. What's going on?
Well, you know what the problem is I've been so busy fussing about with my microphone, I've not heard the whole of the last section. But I wanted to say, Jackie, your website is really cool. I really love it.
Thank you. It's actually it's a modified Agency Pro. I don't know why I picked that one, but I hacked the heck out of it and changed a bunch of things on the home page. But thank you.
Yeah, I really like it. I guess are you in Denver for a WordCamp or something?
Say it again.
Are you in Denver for a WordCamp or?
Oh no, just visiting family.
Oh, okay.
So getting away for a brief holiday.
Mm-hmm.
But,
not allowed holidays. The thing I was going to ask is, did you take part in the Facebook chat that Brian Gardner did last week?
I saw that he did that, and I was not available during that time slot, so I didn't get to actually join in. Did you?
Yeah, I did, and right at the end of it, we were talking about WordCamps, and I was asking, what WordCamps did most of the Genesis crew go to? Obviously, they don't do any on our side of the pond or anything. And then we got on to talking about a Genesis conference. And a lot of people were saying, oh, yeah, we do that and stuff. So, people say they would attend it. And I'm just wondering, something I hope they do.
Yeah, I think the first time we had Brian on here, I pestered him a little bit about a Genesis camp. And everybody thought that was I wasn't the first one to have that idea, but everybody thinks that's a great idea. I think there'd be a huge value in having a multi-day conference that was focused around Genesis, and it could be everything from advanced developer topics to, where just theme setup and all that good stuff. But, alas, conference organization is no piece of cake, and since they just came off the Authority conference, I believe it was in December, last December, I don't know, maybe not eager to conference plan, but I'd be the first one to sign up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have a question coming over the Twitters, and ladies, please feel free to continue keeping me company here. But John wants to know, he says, I've been hearing about Genesis, but don't know anything about it. Do I have to be a programmer to use it? Well, no, you don't. Genesis is as far as ease of use, there are other themes that may be a little more intuitive out of the box. There's no drag and drop or things like that. I think Genesis has certainly a bent toward people who want to use it to develop with, but it's also approachable for someone with no technical experience either. I think whatever theme you pick, whether it's a Genesis theme or any other WordPress theme, if you're not a programmer, or if you don't, and by programmer I'm primarily talking about PHP and CSS, since those are most of the things you use, but the expectation should be that what you see in a theme demo is what you're going to get, and unless you have some programming experience or hire someone with some programming experience, your customization options are going to be a little bit limited unless something is built into the theme, is being able to easily swap it out with a graphical interface. I don't know.
I know.
The longer you spend with it, I think the more you will understand. There was once a year that my father, near the end of his life, there was a year he spent without a driver's license, and I, for a while, was taking him to synagogue every Saturday morning, and which was fine as long as I didn't really understand the Hebrew that we were singing. But once I understood it and realized I had an issue with what we were singing, I couldn't sing it anymore, and so I started dropping him off. So if you're like mostly a designer and a CSS person, at first the PHP will be a little bit interesting and you'll just be copying and pasting, but the longer you work with it, you will start to see how the PHP works and where it fits together. So it but I do not think that is a bad thing in any way. Because it's code, it's not theology.
It won't bite you.
No, it won't. Exactly.
Hey, Robin, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing all right. You're just a little plug-in writing fool over there.
Yeah, a little bit.
Cool.
You've got your first plug-in in the WordPress repository, which if anybody listening hasn't discovered it yet, it's amazing. It basically takes, if you're working with an RSS feed to do like blog post to an email service like MailChimp or whatever, and Robin, feel free to correct me if I'm saying this incorrectly, but it helps your images not be terrible. So resizing your images to be appropriate for email.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous.
And alignment and hopefully dealing with captions better and galleries and everything.
Very cool.
That's marvelous. That's going to be really useful.
Yeah, it's called Send Images to RSS. And yeah, if you search that in the repository, it'll come right up.
And then what's the other one you're working on?
There's one I just put up on GitHub this week, and I don't even know what I'm calling it. Something about display featured image for something Genesis. Let me see what I called it.
Can we have a naming contest right here on Genesis Office Hour?
Go for well. Right now, it's called Display Featured Image for Genesis. So if you want to call it if you come up with a better name, sure, absolutely.
All right. So get your votes in at #GOHchat, and check out if anybody, any of you guys listening have an account at GitHub.com. First, if you don't have one, I encourage you to get one. It's free, and basically think of it as Facebook for the really nerdy people. There's
pictures.
It's a way to share code snippets, and while there certainly is an element of using version control on GitHub, you can do these little things called gists, which are just little code snippets. It doesn't have anything to do with version control. It's just a way to that you can paste snippets either for your own kind of snippet library or to share code with someone else. But the social aspect comes in with any developer that you like or admire or like to learn from their code. You can follow them on there and then of course see all the code that they're writing. So it's a cool way to pick up on what other people are doing. Let's see, got some good questions coming in. Chris wants to know CodeKit or desktop server, if either one is part of my workflow. Okay. Yeah, desktop server, I'll address that first. Like, get out your credit card. I mean, rip your pocket, pull out your credit card, and go buy a copy because it is.
Yeah, it's +1.
Money very well spent. If you're doing any
about that better than MAMP.
Yes, way better than me. I mean, here's the deal. It's fun to understand, okay, I've got to set up a PHP server. I've got to set up a database server. Here's all the components involved in a WordPress install. Yay, I know how to do that by hand. But what Desktop Server does, it does all of that for you, and then you can do these things called blueprints. So take kind of your ideal setup. So for us Genesis folks, it would be I'm going to have the latest version of Genesis. I'm going to have maybe the Simple Share plugin or Genesis e-news, whatever my kind of stock plugins are that I use on projects. And that's my blueprint. And all I have to do is click a single button, and it spins up a brand new install with all of my themes and plugins that I want that are part of that blueprint. So it's a really easy, fantastic tool to use. Plus the guys behind it, Mark and Greg, it's a wonderfully supported product. Yeah. And then the CodeKit, I have a copy of CodeKit, but I don't really use it. I've been using Grunt to compile SAS files, and I know there are other uses for CodeKit. I just haven't branched out. I don't know. Do you, ladies, any chime-ins on those?
I know that every time I launch CodeKit at Tana, which is my IDE, between the two of them, they start to fight. And I thought when I came to California, I was through and brought one of the cats that doesn't get along with one of the others, that I was done breaking up cat fights. So I pretty much just put out a code kit and leave it alone and let Aptana run. And I think there's some that my latest version of Aptana will compile SAS or at least SCSS files once I slow down and figure that out. And that is the sum total of my experiences, cat fights between the two of them.
Well, somehow we have digressed to cat fighting here on office hours. Yeah, Chris, definitely do desktop server. CodeKit, Diane Kinney, if you're listening, I can't remember the name of the tool you use, but it's kind of in that family, and you said you love it, so that would be another alternative. But I kind of wanted to understand how Grunt worked and how some of those tools worked outside of a user interface. So that's the reason I hadn't really fully embraced CodeKit yet. Question from Angela. Oh, wait, no, that wasn't a question. Oh, question from Julie. How do you handle the purchasing of the Genesis framework for your clients? I'll give my answer, and then you guys who do client work can chime in with your thoughts. 9 times out of 10, I just use my developer license, my right to reuse Genesis on a client project. Reason being that my client is never ever going to need to contact StudioPress for support. The only time that I would encourage them to buy their own license is if they plan on having a direct relationship with StudioPress that doesn't involve me, if they need access to StudioPress support for some reason. But most of my clients are not technical. They're not interested in being technical. They're good at their businesses. So I just use my license. I don't know. Joe, what about you? Miss Muty Mute.
I'm exactly the same way.
Joe, you sound just like Mary.
Sorry. My daughter's in the room and she's playing a game and she's sneezing and giggling, so I keep muting me because I don't want to disturb you all. But yeah, I do the same, Carrie. I use my developer's license, and I explain to them that if they need support, they have to come to me for that support. But if they want to have support direct from StudioPress, then they can go and buy their own license.
This was particularly hit home for me when I was in St. Louis for the 2 weeks, last week in August, first week in September, that I'm always on site with one of my clients. And my contact for one of the 2 sites that I've worked the most on came in and said, "So I hear you're flying out Thursday." I said, "Yeah, there's a WordPress conference in Los Angeles." And he said to me, this is the guy who's my contact on this Reverie site. He says to me, "What's WordPress?" And I said, "Well, it happens to be the platform that your 2 sites run on." Did not have a clue.
And then you sicked your cats on him.
Well, they weren't around, but that would have been helpful. I think he had his racket in his hand, and this was in the tennis pro's office, where we all sit and jaw. I'm not a tennis pro, but I support all of them with their email and various things.
Nice. Question from, or a follow-up question from John is, yes, is Genesis a parent theme that is supposed to be used with a child theme, or can it be used as a standalone theme? John, somebody asked a very similar question over on the Facebook Genesis group earlier this week, and long story short, it is a parent theme, and it is meant to be used with a child theme. Reasons being that you can make your customizations to a child theme, because you're never going to update your child theme. You're only going to ever want to update the Genesis framework. And of course, you don't want to edit those files, because then any future updates would lose them. Your files will be overwritten. Now, do you have to run a child theme, or could you just run Genesis? Could technically just run Genesis. I don't really recommend that. Child themes are always a great way to go, but technically there's no reason you couldn't.
Is the sample Genesis child theme, is that free when you buy Genesis Framework, or do you have to purchase that separately?
The sample theme is free, and even if you don't own Genesis, the sample theme is available over on GitHub, on the Copybloggers GitHub account.
So you could get the Genesis Framework and then put that sample child theme on top,
yeah,
and then customize that.
You got it.
Okay.
But wasn't I might have misinterpreted what was said, but didn't Brian say something that what they're thinking of doing is actually stripping out a lot of the CSS that is in the Genesis framework and keeping it in the child theme? So it might be in the future that you would have to have a child theme to run Genesis. So yeah, once you purchase Genesis, download the sample theme.
Yeah. Getting some discussions, follow-up discussions on a desktop server, and Mike points out he does other development besides just WordPress, and apparently the port the desktop server needs to connect to conflicts with some other stuff he's got going on, so interesting to know. All right, so it's not right for 100% of the people, just 99.9% of the people.
I've got a question. Okay, maybe somebody can answer it. I'm on a Mac. I'm using desktop server. Every time I fire it up, I start it up, it asks me for the OSA script, wants permission, and I have to put my password in. Is that normal that you have to do that every time you fire it up? Does anybody else get that?
I think I do enter it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, I do it when I start
time, but if I, like during the day, I want to look at the sites or go into the PHP admin and I click on it again, it makes me go through that process of putting my password in.
I think it has to do with what the passwords are, or else the port numbers for the servers, for the Apache server and the SQL server. And if you set them above a certain number, then you have to put in your password every time. And if you keep them below a thing, then you don't. But it's, for some reason, better to have them, I think they're set at like over 8,000 on the way I learned to install MAMP, which was on a Linda video back when I still used Dreamweaver. Okay. There's nothing wrong with Dreamweaver as a coding environment. It's just that there a version ago, I quit being able to use certain features, I think, with an upgrade of the OS, probably early Snow Leopard. Not Snow Leopard, Mountain Lion, which I refer to as Stink Eye, because of the dirty look the Mountain Lion gives you in the logo. And also crashed all the time. But anyway, back when I was learning that, it had... Shut up, Mary. You got it. Well, it has to do with the servers stuff.
I will check it out.
Cool. Well, by the way, if you're Jackie, I know you're coming to WordCamp DFW.
Yep.
Mary, Robin, y'all making it out?
Got a wedding?
That's like this weekend, isn't it?
October 4th.
October 4th. Not on the agenda, but I think in a year or so when we're back in St. Louis, that will be definitely a stop.
All right. Well, we'll have Greg there from Desktop Server, and so you can, Jackie, you can ask him any and all questions. Somebody is confirming on Twitter, Ben is saying that that's standard security practice for OS X, I guess because it's stopping and starting servers and such.
Mm-hmm.
Who knew? All right, let's talk about some other tools in the tool belt. Have y'all had any fun discoveries lately?
Not a late discovery, but I really like using Bolt for migrating. It's a backup plugin, and yeah, it just takes a backup every 24 hours, and it's got this really little one-click migrate site, and you for migrating sites to one server to another.
Can you say the name again?
Blog Vault, blog, and then
Blog Vault. Okay.
Blog Vault. Yeah.
There was a unfortunate internet blip right when you said the name, so. Blog Vault. Yeah, I think you mentioned that when I had you and Gary on the show.
Probably. It's my, yeah. It was one of the first tools that really sort of I spent a lot of money on, and I mean, it's not expensive, but I now have the developer plan, which backs up unlimited sites. So, yeah, it's one of those first tools that I purchased that really made a difference to my workflow.
Huh. All right. Jackie, what's new in your toolbox?
This weekend I got MigrateDB Pro, and I've played with that. I really like it. It was great for launching that dev site up for me, and then I was going back and forth with it a little bit and updating my dev back and back. I really enjoyed that. It works really nice.
+1 for MigrateDB Pro. That's another one that I would say rip your credit card out of the wallet and pick up a copy.
I did. And I tried out SiteGround this weekend too, so that was good this week. So I do like it. It's I was using HostGator for the garden blog, and I migrated that over yesterday to SiteGround. Had a few hiccups, but I did a manual move myself, and that went well. The SiteGround's much faster though than HostGator. Ran the pingdom test, and it's way faster, even without the W3 cache or anything. It runs really smooth.
Yeah, I've been really pleased with it.
As good as Flywheel. Flywheel's really good too, but I like to tinker sometimes, so I really like the control panel. So for a client site, Flywheel would be great.
Cool. Hey, Ben, welcome to the party.
Helps if I unmute myself.
What brings you here today?
Well, when you were talking about tools, and just figured I'd say thank you very much for giving me the heads up about WP Migrate Database, which saved me about an hour and a half this morning, moving a client site from a local to a live. So yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Robin, you got a new plugin, new desktop tool?
Nothing new. I've been figuring Sublime Text and adding packages there instead of just using it straight out of the box. I'm slow.
Any particular packages that have?
Let's see, I've been, that trailing spaces one that you mentioned many moons ago, I love that. And it's made me really OCD about looking at everybody's code, because now I see all of the extra spaces. And a Genesis snippets one that I just installed that I haven't really used yet.
So what's that supposed to do? Is it just finish?
It's supposed to like auto-generate magically some snippets, like if they're standard, like add a body class, or remove the loop and create your own custom loop, that kind of thing. I'd have to look for the. Let me look at the link and I'll see if I can share it.
Share it on. Yeah, I downloaded after Gary and Joe were on the show a while back. He mentioned the CSS comb, or maybe he mentioned it on Twitter. I can't remember now. But anyways, I installed that, and basically you can go through, because everybody has their own little CSS, preferences of how you order things, or if there's a space before or after your colon or line breaks or whatever. So you can go through and set your preferences and then load that into this Sublime Text package, and then when you run it, it goes through and just straight shoots, formats your CSS, which is kind of handy. Yeah. Let's see. Mary, what's in your toolbox?
I'm pretty well sticking with Aptana and MAMP for now because it works pretty well. And the thing that really turned me on to Aptana from the beginning was occasionally you have to start with a piece of code, like, or even like just the normalize at the top of the Genesis CSS sheets. And Aptana has a one keystroke or one click, take that mess, highlight it, and format it, so that you go from a minified block of stuff you can't even read to actual CSS that you can go through and make sense of. And I also love to be able, and also I love having a window with an outline of a CSS or a PHP file that I can then filter. Give me all the rules about the home page. Give me all the rules about sidebars, that sort of thing.
Nice. John is chiming in over on Twitter that Backup Buddy is great for complete site moves. Agreed. I do like Backup Buddy. I think Migrate DB Pro is, if you're not needing the files and just going for the database, especially moving from, like, say, a development or a live database over to a development server or something. Migrate DB Pro is cleaner to me. But yeah, if you need the whole kit and caboodle, I actually had a multi-site site, and I only needed to extract a single site from that to do some development work on, and Backup Buddy ended up being a great helper in that case. So, yeah. Robin, thanks for tweeting the Genesis snippets package.
Okay, if somebody figures out how to use it, let me know.
Yeah. There you have it. All right. Well, what else? What else is on the agenda? I'm not seeing. I think folks are just listening today. They're not full of questions, and that's just fine. Next week, I will have Brian Clark on from Copyblogger. So think of all of your hard, difficult business questions for him, and we'll pummel him next week. Not really pummel. I just enjoy asking him. Of you guys that are here on the panel with me, who was able to join in the book club edition last week? Jackie, I know you were.
Yep.
Anybody else?
I caught up with it once I had a chance. Kind of regretted not being able to be there because, well, let's just say I learnt an awful lot from Chris that I've been able to use this week.
Well, thank goodness for replays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what obviously Chris was a fantastic, book club or no book club, just getting to hear from Chris was a treat. But wondering if a future book club edition where we read through a business book every 6 or 8 weeks and have a discussion about it, if that would be valuable to folks. I don't know.
I think that would be great.
All right, Mary says +1.
Yes, do it.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm tasking you guys and whoever's listening to make some book suggestions. I'm happy to make suggestions, but I would like to know what you guys are thinking too. So you can either drop that in over at carrydills.com and any old comment field you find, or use my contact form, or on Twitter, just use the GOHchat hashtag. But yeah, I think that'd be fun to do. My mastermind group is currently reading through the Book Yourself Solid book by Michael Port. Fantastic read, but there is a lot of homework, like little written exercises, which has been the stumbling block to me ever completing that book in the past, because it is time-consuming to go through and do those exercises. But it's actually it's quite helpful to sit down with pen and paper and really kind of spend some time analyzing the kinds of clients that you're going after, and what you're doing to be intentional about working with your ideal client, so to speak. So I'd recommend that one to anyone looking for a read.
There's one that I've read in the past for a previous employer called, I don't know if anybody else has come across it, Tom Sant's Persuasive Proposals.
Say that again.
Sorry, Tom Sant's Persuasive Proposals.
Mm.
He's sort of one of these good speakers and stuff, but having read it, it's quite interesting, sort of reading it and suddenly realizing the mistakes that you make in proposals and sort of how very easy it is to tweak them, and sort of one thing I found is that by just tweaking my proposals, I was able to sort of not only increase the price that I was charging, but also sort of have a higher conversion rate.
All right, we'll put it on the list.
Yep.
And are any of y'all on Goodreads? You know that y'all, we're completely diverging onto not technical topics.
I have an account. I don't spend a lot of time there. But what I have just done is joined Oyster Books, which is all the books you can read for $10 a month, and Kindle Unlimited, which is the same deal for Kindle. And am loving the idea that I don't have to decide to pay money for every book. So, so I'm no longer interested in television or anything else. Those are both great resources.
Okay, somehow my Twitter notifications, I've always have sound disabled on them so that they're not just constantly pinging me throughout the day, and I can ignore Twitter except for when I want to ignore it. But somehow magically it's just come on, so when we hear the replay of this and it's bah, 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 then sorry future listeners, sorry current listeners. All right, well, we are unbelievably, I feel like the time has kind of flown and we really haven't covered a whole lot of material, but it's nice to have a laid back session. Yeah, Gary Jones, if you want to hop on and say something, bring it.
Come
Go
on.
back through the feed and you'll find the link. Anything else on the minds, you guys?
Thinking about
What?
this was fun. And you notice this was a whole group of developers or designer developers that was ladies over 30.
Amen.
Hey, speak for yourself. I'm 24.
Okay, ladies over 21.
Okay.
I know you're 21, which would make you younger than my daughter.
Well, Ben, welcome to the middle-aged lady club.
It's all right, don't worry. I worked in a supermarket for like 7 years, so I actually find this more fun. You guys know how to talk rather than talking about football and that kind of stuff. So,
where in the UK are you?
Near Liverpool, actually South Liverpool.
Yeah, kind of it's a big day over there with the Scotland vote.
Yeah, I don't know how Gary and the others are sort of following it, but could be interesting. I don't know how it's going to go. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Really nonplussed either way, but we'll see what happens.
Us in England, we don't have a say, so we've got to wait for the results.
All right. Well, then you get extra internet points for using the word nonplussed in conversation. And here is a a bit of word trivia that has absolutely nothing to do with Genesis or even WordPress. But the word nonplussed, actually, you can interchange plussed or nonplussed because of the way the original meaning of the word, then plus the actual usage of the word, where people used it incorrectly for so long that you can now, nonplussed can mean you're actually plussed.
Whoa.
Who knew? And that's why it's fun to have a Kindle with a dictionary built in, or an iPad, or whatever your digital reading device is. Wow, on that uninformative note, we'll go ahead and stop ourselves before we can do more damage. As always, you can catch the show notes. We did drop a few good links on the show today. I'll throw those in the recap over on Curritos.com. And also, if you're not getting a weekly reminder about Genesis Office Hours and would like one, you know what? I didn't send one this week. I just finished up a project, and my mind has been kind of all over the board. But anyways, on most weeks, every week except this week, I send out a reminder email just to let you know who the guest is and what time it's. It's always the same time, but this is a little reminder. So you can go to carriedills.com/GOH and find the newsletter sign up there. And that's it. And of course, we hang out over on the Google Plus community as well. So between now and next week, if you want to chat with other folks in the community, or just use the GOH hashtag or GOH chat hashtag on Twitter, would love that. Would love for the great conversations to continue even after the show is over. So, guys, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you hopping on here today to cuss and discuss. And until next week, y'all go forth and have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.